Howdy ladies, there's a new girl in town and she's probably too shy to talk to you. Gone are the days of the girl boss. We have had enough of the C-suite girlies. It is time for girl employees to finally rise up. Today in this video, I would like to talk about a new character archetype that I've noticed in media, something that the fandoms like to call the cringe fail woman, otherwise known as a fail girl, sometimes a girl failure, sometimes called a struggle woman or pathetic woman. You get the idea. Now, before I continue this video, I just want to give a little forewarning, okay? This video is for the girls. My ladies, my melon mommies, my vagina havers, and occasionally girls with dicks. If you do not identify as a girl, you are legally required to click off of this video. So I will give you 5 seconds to get off this video before I contact the FBI, okay? Okay. Girls, I think we're finally alone. I finally have Elon Musk's social security number. It's 56. Okay, but jokes and cowboy hats aside, just like how the kick-ass female archetypes really dominated during the 2010s, I think this new cringe fail woman archetype is really dominating the 2020s. But of course you might be asking, Sir Sugarmeat, I am not on the internet that often. What the hell is a cringe fail woman? Well, as a chronically online person, let me tell you. And I'm about to out myself as a Tumblr user again, if it weren't already so obvious. But I found this term on Tumblr, and it's a term in general that has invaded fandom or other chronically online spaces. The cringe fail woman is exactly how she sounds. She overall has a cringeworthy demeanor, whether that is caused by high anxiety levels or a below average IQ, or just overall being a morally bad person. Whatever her flaw is, it is a defining trait and brought to the forefront whenever we see that character. I think some immediate examples that come to mind when I think of cringe fail woman are characters like Kopenny from Chainsaw Man, or Bocchi from Bocchi the Rock, or Saku from The Masterful Cat, or even our goddess Otto herself. Yeah, that Otto. You probably know what I mean if you've ever watched Otto react to her own performances. Yeah! もうやだ。こういうさ、なんかさ、なんか生ぬるい動きが陰キャみたいでやだよね、すごく。なんだその動きは! Or if you're not a degenerate weeb, tell me what that's like. Some examples of American live-action cringe fail women are Eleanor from The Good Place, or Nadja from What We Do in the Shadows, or Evelyn from Everything Everywhere All at Once, or Jen from Extraordinary, or PJ from Bottoms. I named a lot of characters because hopefully you know at least a couple of them, and if you don't know any of those characters, I'm a little surprised you found this video, honestly. What do you watch? But hey, that's okay, I'll elaborate. As I was saying before, what makes a cringe fail woman is that they have a huge character flaw that is made very apparent right off the bat. The cringe fail woman's flaw or flaws are typically more physically or emotionally crippling than the average character's flaws, even making the viewer uncomfortable at times with how they handle conflict, or just from plain secondhand embarrassment. For example, when we first see Kopenny in Chainsaw Man, her anxious nature is the most notable character trait, and all subsequent scenes involving Kopenny paint her to be like a trembling chihuahua stuck in Alaska. And this can obviously range on a spectrum. I don't think people get much secondhand embarrassment or anything from Kopenny or Bocchi as much as they do get entertainment value. But for some cringe fail woman characters, where the cringe fail is dialed up a lot more on the cringe fail spectrum, think like Rebecca from Crazy Ex-Girlfriend or Jen from Extraordinary, cringe fail women can be kind of hard to watch on screen because of their poor decision making. However, I think that it is also important to note that the cringe fail woman is also characterized as having great potential or being redeemable, and they often go through great growth during their character arcs. Because despite how the name sounds, fandoms revere their cringe fail woman. Their cringe fail traits are endearing because yes, it is relatable, and often these characters show the audience how they can achieve great things despite bearing the cringe fail curse. These women are lovingly referred to as cringe fail women. Fans dub characters as cringe fail women as a sign of affection. And that's why people still watch shows like Crazy Ex-Girlfriend or Extraordinary, because despite how these protagonists' actions make you want to throw your TV out a window, you can't help but root for them and want them to achieve their goals by the end of the series. But is this archetype good? Are we doing anything for women by implementing this character archetype in media? Or is this yet another method created by the internet to infantilize women? Well, that is what I hope to explore today. But before I get started, of course, yeah, remember to like and subscribe, whatever. But also, if you are a subscriber of mine, you may have noticed I recently re-dyed my hair. And if you have shrimp vision and can see shrimp colors, please let me know in the comments what shade of red you think I should dye my hair next. But back to the video. So while I was consuming media, or as much media as my ADHD will allow, I've noticed 3 flavors of cringe fail women. The first, having crippling anxiety that prevents them from doing their job well or from accomplishing their goals in general. But this flavor of cringe fail woman actually tend to have a super secret skill. I've mentioned them a billion times now, but Bocchi and Kobeni immediately come to mind when I think of this first flavor of cringe fail woman. Both of them have crippling anxiety. With Bocchi, it's extreme social anxiety and general lack of social skills that prevent her from putting herself out there and working well in the band. And with Kobeni, it is honestly the normal high anxiety any average person would have if they were forced to live in a society where the mortality rate is really high. But despite their high anxiety, Bocchi is an absolute god at playing guitar, and Kobeni is actually a very skilled fighter. And while I can't yet comment on Kobeni's growth because I've never read the manga, we do see Bocchi over the course of her respective anime series work to try to overcome her social anxiety to show the world her secret skill of being an absolutely awesome guitar player. The second flavor of cringe fail woman that I've noticed can be characterized as ambitious, but has some sort of how can I describe this? In general, below average intelligence that prevents them from fully or quickly succeeding at their goals. Some examples that come to mind for this flavor of cringe fail woman are Akko from Little Witch Academy, or Naja from What We Do in the Shadows. In Akko's case, we actually find out that she was actually inflicted with a disability that prevents her from mastering magic as quickly as her peers. But the part that makes her so endearing is that she's so optimistic and perseveres anyway. Now in Naja's case, there isn't much I can say about her character development or anything per se, especially because What We Do in the Shadows is such a comedic and non-serious show. But Naja fits into this category because even though she is usually the most sensible vampire in the group, she does tend to be a bit overconfident in her abilities, as all of the vampires are. And finally, the last flavor of cringe fail woman that I've noticed is morally bad or emotionally stunted, but wants to do good. Now for this last flavor of cringe fail woman, I instantly think of Eleanor from The Good Place or Mae Borowski from Night in the Woods, both of which lived, to put it simply, selfishly, if we ignore the characters' backstories for both characters, but both of whom learn how their actions affect others and strive to be better by the end of their character arcs. But anyway, those are the main 3 flavors of cringe fail woman that I've noticed. Let me know in the comments if you've noticed another secret flavor that cringe fail women come in, if you are already familiar with the concept, that is. Now another question, where did the cringe fail woman archetype come from? Well, I'm not entirely sure, but if I had to make a guess, I like to think that cringe fail woman stemmed from what I'd like to describe as the anti-girl bossification of female characters. If you recall, in the 2010s, we saw this huge surge of highly competent girl boss characters. Think of every female Marvel protagonist you saw during the height of the Marvel era, or Daenerys during the good seasons of Game of Thrones, or Furiosa from Mad Max, or even Amy from Gone Girl. This era of female characters was all about making them extremely smart, powerful, and explosive. This era of female characters seemed to say, women can do whatever men can, and do it while having flawless hair.
Saving the world? Easy. Try having a period for a week.
This was the era of female empowerment where the slogan, "The future is female," made a resurgence, but that was 2010s, and then 2020 came along, and that year was just not fun or empowering for anyone, really. And I think at that point, society just kind of had it with those badass character tropes. The badassery portrayed by these strong heroine characters of the 2010s now became something to ridicule.
You're about to find out that this kitty's got claws.
We would never be able to rise to the top and achieve that level of badassery. The 2020 pandemic broke us, women and all other genders alike. We've seen that no one has us, and we're just trying to survive. Blood and poop smeared all over our face. And so, we started to see a shift towards this cringe fail archetype. Girls who were doing it scared. Girls who made awful decisions because they were hurt or f***ed up in the head and learned the hard way about how their behavior was destructive both to themselves and to the people around them, and how much hard work true change actually is. Girls who, at first glance, don't seem like they have redeeming qualities, but persevere anyway. Because isn't that just the nature of things in the mid-2020s? Okay, but the question is the cringe fail woman archetype actually good representation? I feel like this is an important question to ask, especially in the age of girl dinners and girl math and other online girl trends that are seemingly harmless but have become a major topic of debate for feminism and gender roles. Because while cringe fail can and has been applied to characters of all genders, I feel like the phrase cringe fail is often more so associated with female characters. Is this fun internet phrase yet another play on society's belief in general female incompetence? And I personally think no. I actually like this new character archetype. What I love most about the cringe fail woman is that this female archetype, I feel like, is the first to truly feel like a real person. And I want to examine this further by comparing it to a very similar character archetype, the adorkable Disney girl. You see, also during the 2010s, along with the rise of the badass girl boss characters, we also received an influx of adorkable female characters, mainly coming from Disney movies. Think Rapunzel from Tangled, or Anna from Frozen, or even Mabel from Gravity Falls. These characters were extremely popular during their first introduction in the early 2010s, because many in the female audiences saw those characters be clumsy and generally chatty and ranty and nervous, and they said, oh my god, she's just like me. Now, I'm gonna leave Mabel out of this conversation because I love Gravity Falls and I think Alex Hirsch is just an amazing person, but I think the problem with these adorkable characters is that their quirkiness and flaws are always shown in like a cutesy light. Like, aw, it's so adorable that Rapunzel enters a bar and doesn't realize that most of the patrons here are all just like ruthless criminals. And aw, it's even cuter when she wins them over with her own dreams to see floating lanterns. It's so cute. And aw, it's so cute that Anna grew up in isolation and doesn't even know how to behave during a coronation. Look at her stuff her face with chocolates. She's so relatable. And yeah, I get it. Yeah, these are Disney movies, they're meant for kids, blah blah blah. But even with non-Disney adorkable characters, like the cast of The Big Bang Theory, or every manic pixie dream girl that like Zooey Deschanel has ever played, I feel like their quirkiness was always meant to be accompanied with a laugh track or the "aw" sound effect. And in this day and age, I'm not laughing or on. I, for most of my life, have always been incredibly weird and described as generally unlikable. And I feel like people who grew up with a similar experience are asking for more representation. I think Chris Fleming said it best in one of his stand-up sets, and I cannot deliver the lines the way he does, so I'm just gonna play this clip for you real fast.
The most interesting, authentic people I've ever met, they're not pleasing to be around. Like, we can't handle what we want to take those original ideas and then just give it to the hottest person. That's how we can consume. People like, oh, David Bowie, what do you mean? He's a real freak. No, that's a beautiful, beautiful jock. Okay, Harry Styles, that's a jock in a dress. Give me a little freak. Give me like a 5'1" computer science major from Albany. He sits like this in chairs. He makes animal sounds in public. He's got wet hands. Put him in a dress and stand him on stage at Madison Square Garden and see how the American teens treat him. He will go to jail.
Yeah, as restated by many people in the comment section of Chris's stand-up set, people only like weird when it's palatable and likable and presented by an already attractive person. And that's what I feel like the adorkable character trend was doing. And I feel like the cringe fail woman archetype is our first step into breaking that cycle. Because yes, while some cringe fail woman characters are entertaining, some of them are just genuinely hard to watch. Not to mention too that unlike previous quirky girl archetypes, I feel like the cringe fail archetype does not infantilize the female characters, but instead forces them to live with real world consequences and struggles for their quirkiness or character flaws. And when I say that, please keep in mind that I am talking about how cringe fail woman characters are actually written in the context of their respective series, and not how the fandom portrays or treats their cringe fail woman. Now, is the archetype perfect? Of course not. Yeah, sure, Bocchi and Kobeni are riddled with anxiety, and it's not like a dick measuring contest when it comes to mental illnesses, but I hope writers and audiences know that there are other more complex, more generally off-putting mental illnesses out there besides just anxiety. But additionally, I want to say I really appreciate the cringe fail woman archetype when it comes to characters higher on the cringe fail spectrum. Characters that are so hard to watch that they end up turning people away from the show. And I think the best example I can think of at the moment would be Rebecca Bunch from Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. Now, if you have never watched Crazy Ex-Girlfriend before, I actually recommend that you please do try giving this series a watch. It's pretty delightful and well thought out, even though, yes, the main character is hard to watch at times. And I will admit one thing, it is a musical, so please proceed with caution. I know that some people are very adverse to musicals for whatever reason. That being said, just a little forewarning, I will be talking about spoilers for this series, so if you want to try watching it, please do click off now. But anyway, back to me talking about Rebecca. So Rebecca from Crazy Ex-Girlfriend is a difficult character. She is manipulative, she makes huge impulsive decisions that often largely and negatively affect the characters around her, and her own opinions of her friends and love interests can change drastically in a short period of time. She also tends to have a hard time respecting people's boundaries, and when you first watch the show, she comes off as just a stupidly impulsive, inconsiderate person. A lot of the decisions she makes, like the decision to drop her prestigious life in New York City just to move to West Covina, California, of all places, to chase some guy she had a sort of kind of relationship with during a summer camp in high school, I think, are so poorly thought out that it would leave many viewers to be screaming at the TV and wanting to claw their own eyes out. I've been to West Covina, it is not worth moving across the country for, no matter how good the food is, okay? But we find out much later in the series that a huge reason for her unsavory actions is actually due to her borderline personality disorder. Something she gets diagnosed with in like the last season, I want to say. Been a while since I've watched this series. But that revelation is so great because it recontextualizes all of her actions we've seen throughout the series. And by the end of the show, Rebecca is still on her self-improvement journey and is actively trying to make better decisions for herself with this newfound knowledge of her diagnosis in mind. But the ending itself is not wrapped up definitively. The series ends with her just starting to explore a songwriting career, a career that is more attuned to her actual personality. And it ends with her not choosing a love interest, despite her spending almost all of the series relentlessly chasing a multitude of love interests. And for many people who watched this show, this was very upsetting to see because it almost felt like she didn't go through enough growth. Like, all of this was just leading to the discovery so she could start growing. But I think that's also what's so great about it. I think we need more characters like that in media. Ones that aren't meant to be universally liked, but instead meant to offer a drastically different perspective. Because one, it makes weirdos like me feel actually seen, warts and all, and two, it is a great way to introduce the public to all sorts of different types of people, rather than just the perfectly packaged character archetypes that we're so used to seeing in media. But yeah, I think I'm gonna cut off my thoughts here just because I don't want this video to get too long. I keep saying that, and all my videos keep on turning out to be more than 20 minutes, and I want to edit all that. But anyway, those are my general feelings and observations with this new cringe fail woman archetype. What do you think? Have you ever heard this term before? Is this your first time hearing about this term, or is cringe fail woman part of your daily vernacular? And if so, who is your favorite cringe fail woman? Let me know in the comments below. I think if I had to choose a favorite cringe fail woman, I would choose Mae Borowski from Night in the Woods, but I'm a little biased because I just finished playing that game again. Also, speaking of Catwoman, check out my shirt. That's all I just wanted to show you guys. All right, that's it. Bye. Wait a minute. Did any of that make sense, or is cringe fail woman just good writing?